Hello and welcome to CDO Magazine Interview Series. My name is Riddhiman and I am with TripleBlind, and we're partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to JoAnn Stonier, the Chief Data Officer at Mastercard. Welcome, JoAnn.
Nice to be here, Das.
Nice to be here with you as well. Thanks for doing this. So the first question for you is, who, in your opinion, is responsible for making sure the innovation happening around data broadly is responsible? Is it regulators? Is it up to the companies themselves? Is it more a technology solution that helps you do that?
So I think it takes the whole community, right? I think we all have roles to play. I think regulation always has a role. But as a lawyer, I can tell you that regulation lags innovation, right? The law can only innovate what is already in existence. And innovators, by their very nature, are always at the leading edge, right? So the law can't be there yet. It has to wait for something to be in existence. So I think regulation is necessary, but I think responsible innovation has to be done by organizations. And I think technology is a tool for that, right? And so both the people who create the platforms, the processes, the systems also have to be responsible in how they innovate. So I think it takes a village, right? So at Mastercard, if you think about it, our AI governance, right? It takes a village to really pull that off, right? To your point, we have our data responsibility principles. That's our framework in how we design. So our entire community of individuals who design our products understand those principles. But for AI in practice, it's our data scientists, it's our data designers, it's our data quality folks, along with other reviewers. It can include a lawyer, it can include our privacy team, it can include our security team. It certainly includes some of our folks that focus on data ethics and responsible data practices. We review together what are the potential impacts within certain data domains, right? Because it's different impacts if you're doing a fraud product or a credit scoring product or a product that's just an econometric analysis or a marketing program, quite frankly. All of those are going to be different. So responsible innovation is kind of aware innovation, but I think it's a responsibility that everybody shares. And I know sometimes I get pushback, well, JoAnn, only large organizations can do this. But I think any size organization that's innovating with data has the responsibility of understanding the data they're using, how they're using it, and what the impacts are. And I think if you're not doing that, then I don't know that you should be innovating with data, quite frankly, because we're at this kind of pivot point of connected ecosystems that everybody's learning from each other and the systems are learning from each other. So one error can get so badly amplified, right, if we're not really designing in a responsible and aware way. So I do think it takes the whole village. So my answer to you is everybody, regulators, organizations, companies, academic institutions, governments, as well as the technology to enable that.
That's really fantastic, and I really appreciate how comprehensively you're thinking about this as a multivariate problem. Because often I talk to people and they say, well, responsible innovation is generalizability, or it's about diverse data sets, right? So there are really easy
of course
answers.
You want to minimize liability, right? But don't you want to create a future that everybody can participate in?
Exactly.
Don't you want to create a positive future rather than a negative future, right? I think if you look at it from that lens, right, rather than, oh, I have to do something. And I say this all the time, just look at it as a design brief, right? Regulation provides one set of restrictions. But if you approach it from what kind of future, right, do you want to design? I think you get to much more rich conversations, number one. You have a much more open-ended conversation, and it becomes part and parcel of how you innovate, which makes it much more enriching. And you get to have many more inclusive conversations with people.
Absolutely. I love it. It's so inspiring to hear you lay out a vision here. This is great. So how does a chief data officer like yourself think about evaluating, discovering, and implementing privacy-enhancing technologies, or PETs, as we might be starting to call them?
So we are always on the looking at new technology, right, in a lot of different areas. But as you might suspect, as a former chief privacy officer, privacy enhancing technologies have a little sweet spot in my heart, right? Because protecting people's privacy interests, right, are always something that I'm going to personally be interested in. And so we're doing a fair amount of evaluation in this area, looking at different techniques, right? And I do really find this interesting because we've come a really long way from like hashing of data and salting of data, to the new tools and techniques of obfuscation, right? Anonymization, synthetic data, differential privacy, looking at secure multi-party computation. What we're actually doing is looking at putting lots of these different techniques together. And how can we put those together in ways that enable analytics, that enable insight building, insight creation, but in a way that ensures privacy protection. So while we don't collect that much personal information about individuals, we believe the card number is personally identifiable, and other data elements that we would have are personally identifiable to an individual. So we're always looking for ways to protect that information, to obfuscate that information, to remove it from what we need. And I got to tell you, the new techniques are really interesting in how they enable you to do calculations in partnership with other organizations in particular. And that's what we're exploring right now. And so we have a couple of different pilots going where we are working to actually look at combinations of tools. We bring them into a secure sandbox inside of Mastercard actually to do those tests, right? To create like a synthetic data set and then apply some of these new techniques. And so I'll let you know how it goes, but we're hopeful that into 2022, we should have some POCs that we'll get further down the road. And I'm excited to see what we might build in partnership with some of these outside organizations. So stay tuned. More to come.
That's incredible. Good luck to you. And again, as always, you're thinking about this far more comprehensively than just this one technique will solve all my privacy enhancing technology problems, right? You're thinking about synthetic data, you're thinking about differential privacy, MPC, and I love it.
I think we're on the verge of a future where we're going to need lots of different tools in our toolkit to solve different issues, right? And in order to actually partner and share information with other organizations in ways that are really thoughtful and also just protective, right? And I think that's what consumers and I think all stakeholders are asking. Again, we go back to this concept of responsible data practices. And so I think investing in that kind of thought leadership is just good business practices, but it's part of being responsible with the data that's entrusted to any organization as a data steward.
That's fantastic. I love it. Thank you for sharing again. So my last question for you, JoAnn, is Mastercard is the leader in blank. What might that blank be?
Based on this conversation, I think we are a leader in creating a future of data innovation in a responsible manner. I'd like to think that we're going to lead in responsible data practices for the near term. So I'll leave it there for now.
Especially with your leadership, I'm confident that that's true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, JoAnn, for joining me today. Please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews like this one. Thank you.
Thank you.